Listen to the radio. Harry and Edna's want to show you heard it from the Three Bells.
And what o Edna from a rather croaky and infected little studio as we bob along in the Solent while looking at dear old England and giving you a little sneaky peek about what's going on in the current vintage scene.
What ho?
Lovely weekend. Little known fact, I don't even know if it's true. It might be one of those rumours that everybody always hears and don't know if it's true. But it was it was a song that was banned by the BBC.
Why?
For being too risque.
Really? What?
But you've got to think of the period it came out.
Yeah, but she's not saying she's slipping away with some chap for a secret assignation, is she?
It's implied.
Is it?
You weren't listening.
I wasn't really. I've heard that song so many times and I never read that into it.
If you listen to the lyrics, it looks like,
Does it?
Yeah, they're going away for a kiss and a cuddle.
Ah, well, for a lovely weekend.
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's actually true. That could be one of those many stories that you hear that everyone says, oh, yes, so-and-so, that's happened. And then there's actually no truth whatsoever in that story, so the BBC may not have banned it.
Well,
let us know in the comments if you do. Because...
But that makes the song far more notorious, doesn't it, if it's then banned?
Yeah. Now, what can I tell you? Well, we've got a guest, haven't we? You're on the phone to a gentleman called John Leete, he's written a book about the Re-enactors War, which is all about people who reenact. Mm-hmm. And, we'll find out more about it when we talk. But we're also quite poorly, both of us.
Yeah.
Well, you're in your dressing gown.
Well, I've pulled myself out of bed for this, to record this.
Yeah, and I'm actually dressed, but that's about the first time in about 3 days.
Yeah. We got struck down by the lurgy, didn't we?
We certainly have. And what's unique about this, if you go back to our previous shows, because we've been doing this, since 2012, I think we started. I think the first 8 years... we were always recorded live. It's only in the last sort of 3 or 4 years do we pre-record these. This is so tight for us hitting our deadline. There is a good possibility this is pretty much live. We have to do this in one take if we're going to make the deadline. So if you've tuned in to listen to Harry and Edna on the wireless on your favourite radio station and there is silence, we missed the deadline.
Oh, no. Oopsie.
And if we do, I'll tell you, this is a skin of the teeth job. This really is. You wouldn't get a cigarette paper in between us getting this thing uploaded.
So we won't edit out the coughs and the clearing of the throat and the blowing of the nose. So you'll have to excuse the additional sounds.
No, because it's literally going to have to be a one-take job because we're going to miss it. Because we normally would record this the day before, but we were both in bed too poorly to come out of bed.
Yeah. And
we were suffering. Talking of which, shall we play...
let's cheer the mood up a little bit. Give us a bit of energy. Yeah,
we got Babe Daniels and Three Little Fishes.
What ho?
I was just saying to you while that track was playing, fitting in with our theme of John Leete's book, The Re-enactors War. We do a little bit of reenacting, but not so much as we used to. But when we first made our depth into this beloved 1940s postal district, an event we attended was at the Norfolk Railway.
We used to really enjoy that, didn't we? It was lovely.
But I was thinking, are we talking late 90s? If it is, it's early. It's like 2000 or 2001 we used to go there.
Yeah, I don't think it's late 90s. But anyway,
so that's like 20 years ago, isn't it?
I always remember it was very idyllic reenactment as well.
The scene was very different in those days. I'm not saying it was better or worse. It was very niche.
Yes,
because there wasn't a lot of us that would do it.
So you got to know the scene quite quickly because it was the same few of us that went around
the country. Yeah,
the country.
We had loads of friends, but non-locally.
Was that the first steam railway we ever did?
I think it was the first one we actually partook in as performers or reenactors. Yeah. And the reason I remembered that track reminds me of it. I was saying that we were there with our. Well, they're now the doyens of the reenactment scene and the dance scene. But again, the scene was... And I remember, because we used to all stay in the same hotel. I think we stayed in an Art Deco 1930s hotel. And in the evening, everybody joined down together. Yeah. And I remember them all singing that in a 3-part harmony. Yeah. Because we would entertain.
Because didn't they have, vintage nightwear and they came down in their vintage dressing gown and slippers for breakfast?
They did, and I was going to lead into that because there are some events now and it says, I noticed on the publicity, no dressing gowns for breakfast.
Oh really?
But it was actually quite nice because it was different to see because they weren't just doing what do you call it? Like a pair of jogging bottoms. They were like all in wonderful period.
It was the fact they came down to breakfast in their hair curlers and their old-fashioned slippers and their dressing gown. It was just something you didn't
dressing
see.
to eat for breakfast, wasn't
exactly.
it? They had to get dressed to that level, because it was.
And that was proper reenactment in my eyes, because you're doing it in the truest traditionalist sense.
Yeah, and then in the evening, wasn't it? It was the smoking jackets would come on, and the gentlemen.
You got changed for dinner, didn't they? So they'd go out during the day and then they'd come back and change for dinner. Oh,
those were the days, eh? Those were the days.
Happy
In fact,
days.
I remember Norfolk Railway, and I think they only ever let us do it once. I don't think they were too happy. It was agreed because they wanted us wonderful, dressy up people to be there, and we had nowhere to stay, and we all slept in the train carriages.
Yeah. Oh, I remember those springy chairs, the seats, the train carriage
and there was
seats.
no sound insulation, so you could hear, because you're all in like cubicles, but you could all hear
it was a
everything.
carriage, wasn't it? But it was a carriage that opened out onto the platform, so you if you needed to get up and chat to someone, you had to go out of your carriage and along the platform into someone else's. But I remember hearing Springs, not people being rude in that sense, but just the fact that as soon as you moved,
wasn't it? The slightest movement,
Springs went.
But I loved it. I loved it, and I thought that was an experience. And again, because we were all on the platform during the evening, just socialising, and then we went off to our individual carriages. But after that, then he let us do it that one year. And then, to be honest, we haven't been back to Norfolk Railway for about 15, 16 years, because not that I'm old or anything.
No.
We should. I was thinking we should really try and give these things a go. Although it's now it was a fair trek last time. It's even longer now from where we're based here.
I think that's a long holiday, isn't it?
That is a long way. Anyway, so we can find out what reenactment is like now, I reckon.
Yes, yeah.
Because you're going to have a chat with, because my voice is given up, so you're going to do the talking. Mr. John Leete is going to join us on the telephone, and he's written a book called The Re-enactors War, and it's all about World War II reenactment. So, well, go on.
I was just going to say,
I'll go. Do talk.
No,
Save my
I was
voice.
just literally going to say, I will have to blow my nose first before I chat to him.
But
I'd share that.
But I'll play you a bit of Betty Hutton and Old Man Moses, and I do love Betty. I didn't realise we had these. I have not found Betty Hutton tracks available to download.
Have we played any?
We have, and she's usually in these sort of like dance films of the period.
Right.
And she was only 18 when she recorded this,
Really?
and it was I've seen her sing this on a film, and she's literally bouncing around the stage set as if she's sort of like
dancing, or
sort of like in a weird, sort of like a child dance. She really was like a whole
bowling around, flailing her arms around.
Yeah,
that
she was like Kate
What?
Bush who's drunk too much coffee.
Oh, okay.
And it's just interesting to see how she was. She was such an actress and an act and a singer. And I do love it. And I was chuffed to find some 78s, because I have not found any modern downloads for her. Well, not modern, but music
78 shellacs with her on them.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant?
No, but
No.
My brain's still fuddled at all. Here's Betty, and then after Edna's powdered her nose, she'll be chatting to John Leete on the phone about his book, The Re-enactors War.
What ho?
And hopefully, if Harry's mastered technology, we've got live on the phone John Leete. So welcome to the show, John.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to you both.
Welcome to the show. It's good to hear from you. So
Thank you very much.
We're going to talk about a book that you've written called A Re-enactors War, which is the home front revisited and remembered.
Yes.
So would you like to explain to our listeners what the book is about and really why you wrote it?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I've been involved with reenacting, or in reenacting, for just over 20 years. And I've seen the whole community grow and expand year on year. And like any community, I'm conscious of the fact that it does attract perhaps those who don't understand what the core of the community is about. So what I wanted to try and do was to clearly explain, not only for members of the public that see reenactors out at events, but for those coming into reenacting, and for some reenactors themselves, exactly what reenacting is about, or what it's perceived to be about by those who see us and those who harness our skills and our services, for example, event organisers.
Yeah.
And one of those event organisers are the Royal British Legion, of course.
Oh, okay.
So really the idea is to put reenacting living history, home front living history, on the map for all the right reasons. To
Okay.
explain what we do,
Yep.
why we do it,
Yep.
and the fact that we have an ethos behind it as well.
So,
It's not just about dressing up.
yeah.
We're motivated to do what we do.
Oh, because I see one of the things that prompted you to write this book was quite often Harry and I get asked this question as well, which is people, as in the general public, asking, why do you dress up as though you were living in the 1940s?
Yes, yes.
I'm assuming you've been asked that quite often as well.
Absolutely. I think we all have over the years. I think that's one of the sort of hardy perennial questions. Why do you dress up? And sometimes it's said in a very glib way.
Yeah.
Other times, of course, it's said because people are asking about why you do it because they want to find out more about what you do.
Yeah.
And of course, this gives you an opportunity to explain exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then 9 times out of 10, you hook people and they can actually understand.
Yeah.
Pardon me. But of course, if you're at a large event or you are perhaps a background to a large event, people don't necessarily get the opportunity.
What ho?
So is this as you were saying earlier, it's not a reenactor's handbook, as it were. Is it sort of exploring why people do what they do? Or?
Yes, it's not a reenactor's handbook. I didn't set out to create a reenactor's handbook because
No.
I think reenacting is a bit of a movable feast.
Yeah.
It does change.
Yeah.
By its very nature, it has to change. So if you bring out a handbook within probably less than 12 months, it changes again and it needs to be added to and adapted.
Sure.
But a Reenactors War is really about helping everybody to understand the different aspects of reenacting. Yes, we enjoy dressing and dressing the part and portraying the role, but we're also interested in the people of the time, how they lived.
Yeah.
And the social history as well.
Yeah.
And that, of course, then rolls over into the sort of educational activities that many of us get involved with.
Yeah. Absolutely, because a lot of it is about not just, as you were quite rightly saying, not just about remembering what people went through, but and recreating the time to help people understand and learn, and especially children, because it's on the curriculum at the moment. So
Yeah.
certainly children are very interested in learning all about the Second World War, and particularly sort of history as well. So this is a lovely way of bringing history alive, isn't it?
Absolutely. And in fact, one of our contributors in the Midlands, they've actually sort of basically said what you said, which is we hold educational classes for children. They're absolutely fascinated. We bring in reenactors. They can discuss things with the reenactors. They can ask questions. They can look at items of that period.
Yeah.
And they get very much involved, and they understand through that involvement. It's all about involvement, isn't it, and participation and interaction. And that's when people become far more interested and indeed then learn about and understand what you're doing.
What ho?
Here we go. With the sniffles, I'm afraid Ambrose had a bit of a cold then. He was sniffing too. And that's a sailor with the navy blue eyes. And you're listening to Harry and Edna on the wireless. Yes, you are, where we take you by the hand and lead you through the current vintage scene. And today we're chatting to John Leete about his book, The Re-enactors War, while young Edna and I are suffering with the biggest lurgy you've ever known. Which also got me thinking. I remember being asked, if you look ages back, if you go to our website, harryandedna.co.uk, there's a tab there for Instagram, Facebook, as there is all of these things, and there's one for YouTube, and you have to look a long way back to find this on our YouTube collection videos. You once got interviewed, and it must have been, I think it must have been about, again, everything's about 15 years ago in this program, isn't it?
That was when we were at our peak, was it?
Yeah, that must have been when we were at our peak, about you talking about the vintage lifestyle, and we used to be a lot more hardcore and try and live.
Was that to Radio Times magazine? No, it wasn't Radio Times. What was it? Can't remember.
I can't remember. I've lost my thread now. But I was saying about us living the vintage lifestyle. We used to try and live. So it's like reenacting, but 24/7 all day long. And we stopped using some modern things. But I always remember whenever I got a cold, it was, forget this, I want Lensip, I want all the things, all the things that maybe weren't available in that period. That was it. I don't mind a hanky. It was you that you always had this thing about the big
because you
pile
never
of green.
washed them, and you used to wash them all scrunched up still, and when you come to unscrunch them to hang them up, and yuck, it's just not nice.
Yeah. So there we go. That's talking to us about our Reenactors War, our
scrunched up hankies that you don't unscrunch and wash properly.
But we've got so many hankies now, and there's only so many I can do. The square pocket for my suits. I don't have that many suits.
I don't mind them if it was just like a snivel. It was when you had like a full-on mucus cold. It was just disgusting.
Now the thing is, in modern times, they say, don't they, to use tissues and then bin them, to keep the risk of infection down, I guess.
Yeah.
But surely it's more environmentally friendly to use a handkerchief.
Probably.
Because you can wash them and therefore you're not throwing away paper.
Then you have to iron them all. And I used to remember having this great heap of handkerchiefs to iron.
No. You only have to iron the ones that go in your top pocket. The rest of them...
Yeah, but they all look icky and scrunched up. Anyway.
Do you know when I was at school...
Which was make a peely crackly noise when you unpeeled them when they were...
Which was back in 1900 and oatcake.
Yeah.
I remember every day we had to present our handkerchief, and you were marked down if you didn't have your handkerchief.
What, at school?
Yeah, you had to be presented. You had to present your handkerchief to prove you had one. It's one of the things that the school insisted upon.
What's that then? What was it teaching you?
To make sure that if you had a snotty nose, I guess the teachers
you wiped
didn't
it on
have...
a handkerchief rather than your cuff.
Well, I'm going to say, that was it. And then you went to secondary school, and that's, and people say, that's what your sleeve's for.
Yeah, yuck. I just thought, when you were going back to that interview, reenacting interview, whether it was... Because we'd done a few interviews, didn't they? They used to like the odd ones, the weirdos. Mm. And I think we weren't
Loonies down our
enough.
street, we used to call it, didn't we?
And I don't think we were ever hardcore enough. They wanted us to live the extreme lifestyle, but I think it was more we liked some of the values of the time, and that's what we were trying to live by.
It's a cracking little interview. If you do go to, say, harryandedna.co.uk, and there's a little YouTube symbol, click on that, and I think it says Edna talking about her vintage lifestyle, something like that, and it's a video.
Is that the radio interview?
No, it was for a newspaper. But they did video you, so it was on video. But we never got a copy of the video, so we just took the sound and then put pictures.
I don't remember that. Gosh.
It was... Well, you're right, you did a lot.
Yeah.
You did a lot. In fact, just recently, there was a picture. It came through on one of the social media platforms. It says, 10 years ago that you posted these pictures. There's a picture of you decorating the house for wartime Christmas. And I think that was like in August.
Oh, yeah, we had to dig out the decorations,
Well, I
didn't
didn't.
we?
I did, yeah, but it was all about you and wartime Christmas. It wasn't about me.
But we had to go up in the loft and get them out, didn't we, and pretend it was Christmas. I always remember that, because I always remember filming a wartime... we were doing a night of the Blitz, and that was just happened to be in November, and the evenings obviously got dark early. We were trying to recreate the Blitz, weren't we?
For a TV show.
For a TV show, which was quite funny in our back garden. In the middle of suburbia.
Neighbours wondering what's going on. Yeah. So yes. So the written. Actually, I think on one of the. I'm so tempted to say, but I won't. There is a TV channel, not the big ones, but they have like a view again, and if you scroll through all their back catalogue, we're in it. I did see it once.
Have you ever seen when you were in Donald Gould Mcgill?
No. That was. We need to put a track. We do need to play a track. We shall talk about that afterwards. But we're going to play a little bit of Alan Breeze, and then we can talk about Donald Gould Mcgill, couldn't we?
Yes.
We could. Why not?
Yes.
What ho?
Alan Breeze is going to get lit up. We were going to talk about Donald Gill, and we thought, well, maybe we talked a bit too much about us, when we really should be talking about our wonderful listener and their involvement in the Re-enactors War, as written by John Leete.
But I really wanted to just talk about Donald Gould Mcgill very, very briefly.
Donald Gould Mcgill did saucy postcards and from about the 30s to the 50s, and he ended up being done by the censor.
Yes.
For being in the 1950s.
But there was a documentary made of which Harry had... Were you the judge?
No, I wasn't the judge. I was the clerk of the court.
But I don't know if things have changed now, but as an extra, you were only allowed one line, aren't you?
No, free. Three lines.
3 lines. And a line
otherwise, you
is,
had to be paid more because you're actoring.
Yeah, and a line was determined that if you had a full stop, that was a pause, and therefore that was a line.
That was a sentence.
A sentence,
Yes.
sorry. And then you only allowed 3 of them. And it just always tickles me. You had the longest 3 sentences in the world because you weren't allowed to take a breath, were you? Because that meant then that was the end of the sentence. And therefore it was the start of a new one.
Yeah, well...
You'll have to find your line.
I think I can remember it because I'll see if I remember it. What we're going to do, we're going to play this track by Jules Holland, Tuxedo Junction, and then go straight back to John Leete and the Re-enactors War. But here you go. For those of you who want to, we're going to reenact the court scene from Donald Gould Mcgill. Here it goes. Put up Donald Fraser Gould Mcgill. You are charged, are you not, that on the whatever date that was, you are to be something or other under the Obscenes Publication Act or something. Then I said something else, and then I said, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Wow.
That was the abbreviated version, because I think the whole thing went on for something like 90 seconds.
Yeah, but it was
and then I virtually passed out.
Yeah, because she hadn't taken a breath. And it just struck me as funny that they get away with it. So how many times do you spot these extras doing this really, really long line without breathing?
What ho?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got a fantastic introduction by the Royal British Legion, and even Dame Vera Lynn herself has written in the book as well, hasn't she?
Yes.
Brilliant.
I wanted to do was to give credit to all the thousands, I guess, of reenactors out there who do a really good job. They volunteer their services, they go into schools, they help events, they help dedicate memorials, a whole manner of activities.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say was that is actually recognised.
Yeah.
The good things that you do is recognised, none more so than in the case of the Royal British Legion, who harness the services of reenactors considerably so.
Yeah.
And when I approached them and explained what I was trying to achieve, they were very, very, very supportive. And they said, when you've written the manuscript, we're more than happy to reinforce the message, if you will, because we do use reenactors and we appreciate and understand the value of reenactors. So from my point of view, that was an endorsement of what I was trying to achieve. Yeah. But also, it was saying to the reenactors out there, you're doing a good job. It's a very, very valuable job. And an organisation as large and as well known as the Royal British Legion are actually telling you so.
Brilliant. So
it's not just me telling you. It's not just me saying what a good job you're doing.
Yeah.
It's taken out of my hands, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And no one better than the Royal British Legion to sort of endorse
Indeed.
it. So how do people get hold of your book? And when can they get hold of your book?
Well, it won't be published it will be published in July. Yeah. But I think you can get it on Amazon now, so you can pre-order it, and you can pre-order it through thehistorypress.co.uk.
What ho?
And there we go, that was John Leete prior to that, talking to us about the Re-enactors War. You can get it on Amazon and all the other online places, and you never know, there might even be a bookshop, or have you managed to get rid of all of them?
No, there's still quite a lot, thankfully.
You do love a bookshop.
I do love a bookshop. You can't beat the smell of a new book.
Do you know, you can always tell someone who loves a bookshop because they always say the same line when they walk in.
What?
I could live in a place like this.
Oh, you can. You just inhale all that lovely smell of books.
Yeah, but you like the smell of stationery.
I know, I like this. I'm not alone in that. Me and my good friend Claire, Claire, were at an event recently and Filofax were there and they gave away free goodie bags and we were so excited.
For the smell of fresh stationery.
Oh, excitement. Goodie, and it was, and you got a Filofax linen bag to have it, and we felt like it was Christmas all over again. We were so excited.
Well, we did say, while we were off air, that we were talking all about us. And we have to stop that, even though we then carried on and talked about us again anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's because I wanted to share the extras.
Yeah, but we're going back to our reenactment days.
Yeah.
But not talking about ours.
No.
But one of the great people that was in that was a guy called Ian and Jan Bailey, and they run Saberstorm. And if you go through the back catalogue of Harry Edna on the Wireless, they've been on the show talking about Saberstorm, which is their book publisher. And they publish lots and lots of books. But they've also, what's less known, is done a bit of acting
And film extras.
and filming. And there's an episode, I think they've reshown it must be about 12 years old, The Last of the Bombshells. It's a BBC production about Diana Dawes, and they're the dancers in it. You'll see them. And then I said, that's not, and then you didn't realise this, and I thought, surely his biggest claim to fame, and I can't remember quite what the role was.
Our kids were so excited at this, weren't they?
He was either a heavy, like a bouncer, or he was a security guard in an episode of Sooty. He played the straight man of Sooty.
But was it Ronnie? Not Ronnie. Who was Corbett?
I don't know.
Harry was the original one, wasn't he?
It must have been Matthew Corbett. Sooty, for our American friends, is a children's TV puppet, and it's a show.
He's been going since.
He's been going since
40s, 30s.
I think
50s?
it was 50s. I think. Yes, I went
Maybe
as a
early
child
50s.
to see Sooty.
Oh gosh, that's 30s then. Don't make me cough.
That made me cough. That made me cough. That did. And look, we've nearly done it. We've nearly done this in one take. So let keep going. In fact, we're going to quickly play the Spitfire Song by Joe Loss and his orchestra, because we can still squeeze in a few more songs before we have to sign off.
What ho?
Well, we made the whole show. Didn't think you would. I actually thought you would return to bed before the very end.
No, I've stuck it out. I've done quite well.
You are going back to bed, though, aren't you?
I am, shortly, yeah.
So, to let you go back to bed, we're just going to say...
Toodle pip from me.
And a tingly tonk from me, and we'll leave you with the International Novelty Orchestra. Yes, there is an International Novelty Orchestra, and this is Colonel Bogey. Toodaloo.
What ho?